Hello and welcome to On a Mission, the show where we share inspiring conversations with phenomenal women who are creating success and prosperity in their lives with purpose and passion. I'm Pauline Rohdich, a success mindset coach and clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm on a personal mission to remind you that you are a beautiful soul and you have so much potential. And my intention for this show is to give you the nudge to answer your own calling and to rise up and take on your life's mission. So welcome everybody to the On a Mission, the show where we are showcasing and having wonderful conversations with phenomenal women. And today is my first guest, the gorgeous Aveline O'Sullivan. She's a friend and she's just an amazing woman. And I just want to set the scene as this is the first episode. So today is the 28th of February, 2021. And we're almost 1 year into a global pandemic. And for those of you who have been watching and listening to me for the last year, you've heard me harp on about anything is possible. Create your own circumstances, create your own life, design your life, regardless of what's going on outside of you. You've heard me saying to you, you have so much potential, so much power. And because of me saying that out loud, I've been saying it inside, it's been coming from within me. This is where this whole thing has been born. The Facebook group, which has had many names because of the evolution, which is what's supposed to happen. And also I'm here and I couldn't be happier to introduce you to those who haven't met Aveline. Those of you who know her know how amazing she is. And I'm going to hand it over to my gorgeous pal, Aveline O'Sullivan. Aveline, you're so welcome.
You make me out to be this.
And you know, you've been my first client as well. So we've had a few firsts.
Yeah.
So come on. Today's a special day in your household though, isn't it?
I'm just laughing because today is my son's 10th birthday. And you know, when you asked me to be on, I didn't cop it until about Friday night. And I was like, Pauline's asked me to be her first guest on my son's 10th birthday. It was double digits in this house. It's a big deal. And, you know, I would say really that Finn's, prior to that a little bit, but the most transformational time of my whole life has been the first day that Finn was born. And I think I've been on an amazing journey since. But you're right about the pandemic, and I'll tell you why. Because the first case was announced in Ireland on the 28th of February last year. And I didn't want to tell Finn. I tried to hide it from him because I didn't want him, because, you know, we didn't know what it was about and stuff like that. So, you know, I never told him that's the first case, you know. But it's a year today that's the first case. And we're having a lockdown 10th birthday in this house today, which is quite exciting. And you have a Finn, Pauline. We both have a Finn.
Yeah, you do. And you know what? What's your Finn like? What's his personality like?
Oh, but you know, like I would kill myself for saying this because, you know, my mother, I used to think my mother had mommy's boys, you know, all the time, because I have a twin brother and I used to think he's a mommy's boy. But there's a different relationship with a daughter. And it's okay to say that, like a really strong, God, does she push me, phenomenal woman in my daughter. Phenomenal, right? She will really pushes me in a great way. And then I have my son, Finn, who just worships me. He thinks his mother is fabulous, you know, and
Aveline, I have to caution you because my Finn is 5 years older than your Finn, and the worship thing, it sort of dilutes a little bit. So just be aware, okay? Yeah. Be aware. But listen, look, there's something about the Finns of the world, and they are definitely here. They're kind of the warrior in them, and they put it up to it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
So Aveline, we're here to talk about your magnificent business and your journey to bloom in a box. So I'm going to hand it over to you, but I'm going to hand it over to you with a question. What is your intention, you know, behind Bloom? How did it become the phenomenon that it is?
My intention behind Bloom is to connect people, really. It really is to connect people, and I'm driven by the Maya Angelou quote. It's, you know, it's not what I can't remember. It's not, I know it off by heart now, I can't remember it. You know, it's how you make people feel. You know, it's how you make them feel. It doesn't matter what they say or what they do, it's how you make them feel, right? So I suppose I didn't know it, but in my language all the time I use the word feel because I know what it is to feel, you know, and I know what it is to feel terrible. And the truth is, like, I don't say this very often, and I've kind of recently started saying it because I wasn't very comfortable with saying it, but I nearly lost my life, and Finn nearly lost his life this day 10 years ago, right? So it's a really long story. I ruptured my womb. It's beyond, like, you know, and I suppose I didn't know that I was in trauma for about 3 years of my life afterwards. I didn't really understand that I was in trauma and I was in trauma for a long time afterwards. But it's funny, like that falling apart and that putting myself back together in a jigsaw was, I mean, I just don't forget it for a second. And it was the scariest, years of my life in trying to be who I am. Because I think before that I was who everybody else wanted me to be, and now I am who I am.
What changed? What was it that changed?
Because I knew within me there was somebody else, and I suppose we women do it. And I'm reading Glennon Doyle at the moment, Untamed, and us women tend to be who everybody else wants us to be. We think that we need to say a certain thing, or we need to dress a certain way, or we need to be a certain way, and we need to act a certain way, and we're pleasers, right? So this disease to please that Oprah talks about, right? Yeah. Probably led me to Bloom in a Box as well. This disease to please, and you're pleasing everybody else, right? Holy moly, I won't curse, right? But it is so liberating when you are who you are, and that's it. That's it, right? Now, I'm not who I am every day. Like, I won't lie to you. There is still vulnerable moments, and I'm still sometimes not fully who I am, and then I have to bring myself back, and remind myself, right, who I am, because we do, like, I'm going to a terrier barrier at the moment with other things, like my business is moving to another stage, right? So I'm trying to remind myself who I am, which sometimes isn't easy. It isn't easy, but I suppose the Bloom in a Box is built from that, because I had flower shops with my sisters, and then when Finn was 10 months old, I decided, it should be a great idea to open another one, like a lifestyle job, the furthest thing from a lifestyle job, right? But what I learned very much was, and I said to my sisters at the time, I don't want to be with the public. Don't want to talk to people. I want to be behind the scenes. Don't want to do it. But actually, I was pushed into it, and it was the greatest lesson. And I had worked in corporate for 12 years before that, and there's nothing like working with the public to teach you an awful lot about life, because it's very humbling as well, and especially in a flower shop when you get to see so many different things in people's lives and what happens, right? So what I learned very quickly, because I have it, this need to feel acknowledged, this need to feel, that someone is acknowledging you and saying that you're great, and in the really dark, quiet moments, because like people are talking now, but 10 years ago people didn't talk about like going on IVF journeys, miscarrying, trying to conceive and not conceiving. Like I spent years trying to have my kids. Like, I know the journey that is, right? And I know how lonely it is, but people weren't talking about it. So when I was in the flower shop, I could see that people wanted to send something to these people, and it's well like people going through chemotherapy journeys and other things, and all the other things that we have going on in our lives that nobody knows about, and we have this fear about it, or we don't want to share it, and that the real quiet moments, those moments that even as young mothers, Pauline, and you know this, right? Like, it's not easy. It's not easy, right? And you don't know who you are, and you often think that you're not good at this, and you weren't meant to do this, and all the other things in society. And that's what I go back to. What society tells you should be is a load of bloody rubbish. Right, it is, right, and I don't get me wrong, I'm still led by it today, even as a female business owner. I think that I need to be pivoting and all these different things that entrepreneurs think that they need to be doing, and I can sometimes get caught into that trap as well, right? But so Bloom in a Box was, so people wanted something between flowers and supermarket flowers, right? And it's mostly women to women, because I do it for women. Right? I know the men follow through, but I do it for women, because the women send this box with a flower, and in that moment, it's like when a child hands you a single flower. It's the sentiment, it's a gesture. You can say whatever you want in that message, and you want to see them. I mean, some of them are hilarious at the moment, talking about we'll have our Botox soon, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and they're brilliant, right? And some of them, you like proposing to people like their bridesmaids, would you be my bridesmaid, and all these really funny things. And that's what it's for. It's just connection, and it's the disease to please that's in me. That's all it is.
I know, but it seems like a simple concept, but I know there is so much thought and energy and passion that has gone into this, because I don't want you to be coy or shy, Aveline, but let's tell everybody that not only have you got one patent for this idea, but by the way, all ideas, let's face it, you know this and I know this, all ideas they're born twice. So first the idea comes in the mind before anybody puts it in their hand. So you put this idea on a plane, I believe, and then talk about the patent as well, in two patents in two different places. Go ahead.
Well, some people are probably sick of me telling this story, but I was in Harrods with my sisters. We weren't buying now, we were looking, and my mother, and we were away in a weekend, and I remember taking up this Kat Kitson book, and the funny thing is, it's called Coming Up Roses. I mean, I didn't even, like, a year later, I looked at the book again, and on the back of it, it says that she said, Kat Kitson, I'm waiting for everybody to realize that I don't know what I'm doing, right? And I suppose I've always, since the age of 7 and 8, knew that I was going to do something, but I stopped it. Like, I did what everybody else wanted me to do for a long time. And I kind of kept suppressing that thing that I knew I was going to have a company, or I knew I was going to do something. And when I read this, I said, I don't know what I'm doing either. I haven't a bloody clue, but I'm going to do something, right? And that's the truth, by the way. We don't actually really know what we're doing. And in a minute, I'm going to read a quote from the book Untamed, if you don't mind, right? But so.
What's one of your favorite? It was one of my questions for you. What would be one of your favorite quotes? So keep going.
So I was on the plane. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting beside my sister Sinead, and bang! I mean, bang! The idea just came, and I think it's because I was actually still. I'm not being very good at being still, and it came to me. And my sister Serica wouldn't. She thinks I'm cracked. And she's, she loves me to bits, but she thinks I'm cracked, right? So I said, if Serica says this is a good idea, then I'm running with this, right? So I got to the bag carousel, and I said to Serica, I need to tell you something now. I've come up with this idea on the plane. She turned to me and she goes, "Bloom in a box." And I was like, oh God, shit, I got to do it now. I got to do it now.
It's still giving me goosebumps, Aveline.
Can I tell you something? It took me 5 years to do it. Okay? So it's not that like, oh God, I set it out.
Everybody, can you emphasize that for everybody?
Yeah, it took me 5 years.
Not 5 minutes. 5 whole years.
5 whole years, and you would think, oh my God, she's putting a flower in a box. What the hell took her so long? But it's not that, right? Because I needed this to ship. So we shipped this into the UK, and I've shipped it as far as Luxembourg and Italy, right? So behind all the emotional side of what drives me, there is a technical product behind it, right? And it took months. And I mean, wooden spoons holding my vials upside down, homemade. It was like Mary Fitzgerald in my house for a long time with homemade boxes. And I'm not lying. 10 times, 20 times, I said I wasn't doing it. I did. I said, I'm not doing it. Because when you're really, really tired and you're working full time, right, and you're trying to bring money into the house, and then you're putting every penny that you take and you're putting it into a product.
Children. With two
small children, yeah. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, and I'm taking all my money, and I could have redecorated my house 10 times over at this stage, right? And, we all like to have these nice things in life, and I'm putting it into this product that I don't even know. Well, actually, that's not true. I did know, right?
I know.
That's the difference, right?
I was going to pull you up. I was going to pull you up. You did know.
So I did. I mean, there was times I didn't know though, Pauline. There was times I doubted it. Like, Jesus, like there's times that thing failed.
It'd be fair to say that you didn't know the how part, which is what stops most people, because the need to know the how is why most people don't bring the idea to.
I had to tell myself that now last week though, Pauline. I had to say, Aveline, stop worrying about the how, the bigger picture. Because you do, it's a constant reminder. It's a constant reminder, right? But what I'm saying is, no, Pauline, to be honest with you, like it failed so many times. It didn't ship properly. The box had to be changed. And there was lots of times when I was going, this is not going to work. And then I went to a patent lawyer, and I was sitting down in front of the patent lawyer in Dublin, and I said, here's a box, and I want to get a patent for it. I think I'm onto something here because I'm transporting in water and blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, yeah, it's scratch, but I don't think you're going to get a patent, right? And in my head, in that instant moment, I said, we'll see about that. Didn't say to him. I just said, we'll see about that, right? And I took myself off. And for a couple of months, I was like, oh, will I, won't I? And then I got talking to somebody through somebody else one day, and he sat me down and he quizzed me for an hour. He hardly spoke to me. He just kept quizzing me, and he said, I think you're onto something. And I got a patent because, it's like 8% of women in the world own a patent. And I got a patent last May for this, right? And to be honest with you, I really hadn't a clue what I was doing. I mean, I was just testing and believing in it and knowing that I was going to do it, right? Because in my head, I could see it. And the funny thing is, right, I went through lots of different shapes and models of it, right? But it never changed. It never changed image. From that image on the plane to what it looks like now is exactly the same box. Exactly the same box.
Well, look, that is how dreams are made, right? Persistence, the idea, the passion, the desire, the determination, the never giving up, the tears, the sweat, the blood, the money, the doubt and the worry. It's all part of it, right? Yeah. Because really the purpose of this show now going forward is to have people just like you, Aveline, who have pushed through all of those various challenges. And now you're sitting and there's been massive growth, correct? In a pandemic. Yes? Yeah,
I now have 3 employees and a warehouse. And since last June, really, because I soft launched it. But the truth is, And Pauline, you said, what was my greatest fear? Like, I loads of fears. I tons of fears. Every day I had fears. And I still today have fears. I wake up with fears every day, right? And so I left my corporate job in June. Like, I tried to give up about 3 or 4 times, and you know this, and I kept getting lured back in because of this. And the ego kept pulling me back into that corporate job, right? Because, you know, I was well known, and I had this and I had that, and all of a sudden, right? And I have to be honest with you, when people said to me for a long time, what do you do? I defined myself by my corporate job and not by, I had a patent, I had this, because the truth is, I was nearly embarrassed telling people that I was going selling a flower in a box. And I can say that honestly now, but it's not funny at the time, by the way. At the time, you feel like so judged, you know, that people think that you're doing this. And when I was telling people that I was leaving and I was doing Bloom in a Box, right? That's lovely. Oh yeah, that's lovely. So you might, you know, sell it in the, you know, like in the, here and there, and oh, that's really nice, you know. Like, I wouldn't even tell you the numbers we're selling at the moment, right? And I kind of go, yeah, you know, yeah.
Listen, I have a few questions, as you know, so I'm going to refer. You've covered a lot of things here, Aveline, and it's fantastic. And I hope everybody that's listening in is hearing the passion, the honesty, the integrity, just Aveline's absolute stickability, shall we say? And that is really what's called for. But you know what? I want to just ask. You know, now that you are this wonderful entrepreneur and you've received awards and you've been acknowledged nationally, and I know you've big plans for this, and I know there's a lot of interest in your product, and you've 2 patents, correct?
I have a European patent just about to come out, yeah. European patent pending, yeah.
European, oh my God, I thought it was just UK. So European, fantastic.
I have a UK and a European patent pending, yeah.
Ah, I thought it was Ireland, but it was actually the UK. It was
UK and Ireland, and they go under, yeah.
So look, this is just unreal. So what I want to ask you is this. As the entrepreneur now that you've given up the corporate and you are fully immersed in your business, just, you know, bring it home, literally home. What's it like to be Aveline now, the owner, entrepreneur, Bloom in a Box, featured businesswoman, given talks? What's it like at home? What's it like with Finn and Isabel and your lovely husband, Dennis? And by the way, I'm so happy with Dennis, and you do yoga with me every week. But I mean, tell me this, what is it like being mommy now?
It feels like me.
Oh,
it feels like me.
I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Really
no, it does. It feels like me. It just feels like me because that other. Well, by the way, that I don't regret that other. I don't mean that other woman, because she was very much me. I don't regret her in the slightest. She was phenomenal. I actually look back there now and go, I don't mean that. That sounds like I'm talking about somebody else, because in some ways I am talking about somebody else, and in lots of ways I'm not talking about somebody else, because sometimes I miss her. Sometimes I do miss, you know, the travel and the corporate life. Sometimes, you know, and that's okay. That's okay. But I don't miss the running around and the never being, you know, the guilt that, you know, this guilt that we all do, right? And like, you know, but what it is like, yeah, Isabel and Finn, I probably know what it's like, because Isabel and Finn will say something to me. Last Friday, I was having some delivery issues, but they were small, right? And I was getting a call about them and blah, 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 blah. And it was about 3 o'clock in the evening. And I said, no. Just going to think positive now. I'm just going to think positive. This is fine. This is going to work out. And it did work out, but I didn't pay any attention. I didn't think Isabel was listening. So I went into her bed on Friday night and actually fell asleep beside her. I was lying down talking to her, and she says, the last thing she said to me is when she turned, she says, Mummy, you said today, Mummy, that, oh, I'm going to be positive now. I'm going to be positive. And that's all going to work out. I'm going to be positive. We're not thinking negative about it. And then she goes, and Mummy, you know, it worked. And she turned over and went to sleep. And, you know, I fell asleep instantly with her until I woke up the next morning and I went, oh, so what I'm saying is they do listen to you. And Isabel hears everything I say, because she's like, and she throws it back at me now too, right? But like, she does, and they hear the Bloom talk, and they hear the business talk. Now, the other side of that, Joe, too, is that they see their mother constantly working as well, right? Which is great fun in the pandemic and homeschooling. Everybody's doing that. Everybody is doing that, and we're doing the best that we can. And there's some days I feel the guilt about it, but I feel more me. I feel more relaxed. I feel that this is. I know
they're involved with you, really. It's a different thing than the corporate job. This is more of a family kind of concern.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I had them sweeping the warehouse the other day, and I had them cutting flowers, and
I mean, I think that's hugely, I think that's so beneficial to children that it's not just one way. And of course, I'm a big advocate. It's not just academia, because so many children are not going to be academic. And
I have a serious issue with that now, and I'm not having a thing about academia. I'm not, right? I don't like putting people into boxes, and especially in the academic world, because I would say that I was not an incredibly academic person. I wasn't, right? I call myself a dreamer in a way, and I don't take tests well. I don't, right? I've been on a journey this year as well that I think I may have discovered that I'm actually dyslexic. That's the first time I said this publicly. Yeah, and I think that all makes. Yeah, but that makes sense now when I look back in hindsight. That makes sense about why things didn't make sense to me in school. But then I also see the amazing things about being dyslexic. And I have been told, looking by somebody now, that I more than likely am. And I feel like, I see it a mile away now. I see it a mile away now. But at the time, I didn't understand what it was. But you know what? It made me who I am, because I can deal with things differently. And I look at things completely differently because, But then I think that academics are amazing too. I think that every child is different, and you should let your child follow where they want to go. And I'm very much trying to do that with my two, because my two are completely different.
Yeah, no, and I'm all for academia. We need everybody. We're all interdependent, so we need the academic. We also need people that are a bit more creative and a bit more spontaneous and a bit more just like you, the entrepreneur. So look, you hit upon something when you mentioned about being the dreamer. So of course, my whole idea and what I truly believe in is that we are born with a purpose, and that we're souls, and that we have divine assignments, and that we have a calling. And so I want to know, do you feel that you are closer to, well, first of all, do you buy into that? Do you kind of feel that way, or do you think that you've designed this completely yourself, or do you think there's some energy, whatever you might like to call it?
So, no, I think it came from a higher place, without a shadow of a doubt. It came from a higher place. I kind of call it the feminine energy myself. I think it came from the feminine energy. Oh yeah. I mean, it did. It had to, because it just came. And Elizabeth Gilbert speaks about this, right? But she says that this is really important, and this actually scared me in my, when you get the idea, right? But the idea will only keep nudging for a while, right?
Right.
If you don't do something with that idea and take it, that idea will move on to somebody else who's going to do it.
Yeah. Right? Big magic. That was what you said in the big magic. Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. Didn't she experience it with one of her own books? She had started to write a book, then she parked the book, and she met an author at a function in New York, and the author had the book started because the idea had to be born. So I'm so thrilled that you did give birth to Finn and Isabel first, then Finn, and But you know what? You mentioned your quote. What's your favorite quote, or what's your quote of the day at the moment? What are you loving? Read it out to us if you haven't.
No, it's funny, because what started my journey, and you actually posted it the other day, and I couldn't stop smiling at it, because it's one of my quotes that got me on this journey. It says, Elizabeth Gilbert again, this happens to be Elizabeth Gilbert. I've never seen any life transformation that didn't begin with the person in question finally getting tired of their own bullshit. Right? And I was so tired of my own bullshit. Because I was saying, when I'm ready, like I said, Teresa, I was always getting ready to be ready.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to be ready, because I was getting ready to be ready to do this, and I was getting ready to be ready to do that, and I was always at the end of the cliff, and not about blooming a box, it's about everything, right? Getting ready to be that person, getting ready to be that mother, getting ready to be this blah, 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 that I wanted to be, that I really wanted to be, right? And then I was listening to, I actually was talking to a friend, and this is how I'm not good and quiet. Clearly you can see that, right? I'm not good and quiet. But that's actually okay sometimes, right? Because when I was talking to a friend, and sometimes I have to get on the phone and I have to verbalize. And when I come off the end of the call, I go, it's okay, actually, I don't need to talk anymore. I've actually, I know what it is, like that. And Elizabeth Gilbert, and this is not an Elizabeth Gilbert thing, right? But she does Eat, Pray, Love. And when Julia Roberts, I'll talk about Julia Roberts, and she's inside in the monastery, right? And they're saying, they wanted her to be quiet, or she thought she needed to be quiet, right? And then the head person in the monastery or whatever called her back one day and said, Liz, or whatever her name, Liz, you're not good being quiet. Being quiet does not suit you. I need you to invite the guests in. I need you to talk to the guests. And that was a huge awakening moment for me, right? Because I thought that I needed to be, a certain person and be quiet. And people like used to put names to me, saying, God, you never stopped talking. And then I suppressed myself talking for years. I didn't talk. I suppressed myself talking because I thought that this is the way, like, I should be. I hate that word should, right? Yes. Should and could, should, I hate them. And then I was watching her and I went, but that's me. I'm not meant to be quiet. Like, I'm meant to, like, express emotion, express feeling. And actually by expressing, right, and people know this, I believe my emotions are so stuck down on me like they were. And by expressing them and talking them and dancing them out and all these things that I do, I was getting them all out of the cells in my body, because suppressing them was making me a very, very, very sad person.
Yeah, no, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, it's just, and you found a medium in your business with a beautiful product that speaks volumes, a single flower. And I've been the recipient of your beautiful product. I've also been a giver of your beautiful product. And there isn't one person that has received one of your products that hasn't said, wow, you know, it's just.
I know, but Pauline, I don't consider myself really a florist, right? I 2 flower shops for 10 years. I say I'm the person.
Florist, actually.
No, but you know what I mean? No, I would say that I am the person that owns a company that makes people feel good, right? So when I was setting it about, I wanted it to be affordable, right? But I wanted it to be really luxurious, because I was selling an experience. So I'm like, sometimes it doesn't work like that. We've had cases where the flower is broken and stuff, and it devastates me. Like, that happens sometimes, and that's, you know, it happens, right? But like, for 99% of them, it's perfect. But yes, like, I wanted that woman, and I will say woman, right, to open that box. You know, that wonderment of children opening boxes and what's inside in the box, right? Because I suppose I have this childlike sense. And open the box, what's in the box? But you know what it is? I don't do it. It's the person that's sending the message. It's the message and the acknowledgement from one person to the other. That's all it is.
It's the gesture. And I know you're all into the acts of kindness and everything. No, look, that is just absolutely fantastic. I just want to quickly have a look here. Here's another question, Aveline. When do you feel, you know, your connection to God, spirit, your higher self? When?
No, when I'm having when I'm being true to myself, right? But in nature. I love nature. I have to have nature. I have to walk in nature, and I love that. I love listening to podcasts, and I love listening to entrepreneurs and people. I'm actually listening to Barack Obama, Promised Land at the moment on Audible. Oh, wow. And I love that. And I always feel that when someone says something inspirational, and I always feel really good as well when I see acts of kindness between people. You know, I feel really connected, and it could be small things. And believe me, the pandemic's been crap. Of course it has, right? But it's been amazing. It's been amazing when you see like small little things that people going around and, you know, delivering the groceries and all those things. I feel really connected then. And I think that everybody feels connected when they're giving. I really think that no matter what it is, right, you feel really good. You feel really good.
I love that, what you've just said there, because it just struck me, and it really is, you know, I think that's probably why people, but to be aware of that, maybe people don't acknowledge it. I mean, in the main, we're all givers and not so good at receiving, which we need to have in equal parts. But you're absolutely right. I think when you do give, that is actually a glimpse of God, the creator, the higher self, the soul, because it's soul to soul. And I do think while the pandemic has been horrendous for many, many people, the pluses are greater connections, more self-respect, back to the way it was once upon a time. It certainly has made a lot of more people feel the equality, you know, that we're all in this together, and that but and this is why this show really has been born, is because I want to really demonstrate that there are people thriving, and you're one of them. You know, you're one of them, and this is nothing to be ashamed of, because, you know, I even felt myself last year, because I started my coaching side of my business, as you well know, this time last year was beginning of March.
I was your first student.
Very good student at that. But the point was, there it was starting in a pandemic. And at times, you know, I used to hesitate to actually, you know, invite people to consider even doing coaching with me. I thought, is this wrong? Is it crass? Is it ugly? Is it too much for people? But the voice inside said, no, keep going. People need to know that they've choices, that there's another way, that they have the power within them, and that they can make things happen. And you made all your changes last year.
Yeah, but I also want to say that it's not easy either. I mean, it's not easy. It's a constant, like, I didn't just wake up and leave the corporate job and it all went, woo, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard, and it's a belief in yourself all the time, and belief in my customers actually, and that's the truth. I mean, God Almighty, they were so patient with me, some of them, because I had some mishaps along the way, because couriers and deliveries at the time and COVID. But I've had some amazing times, right? But it is hard, and it is a constant getting up every day, and it's a constant reminder, and it's a constant, and there is days that you will not want to get out of bed. There is days like that, and there's no point pretending that they're not there, because by God, they're there, right? And you need to peel yourself out of bed, right? But there is days that, I can feel sometimes the crap coming in again, or the old paradigms coming in again, and I have to catch them. I have to catch them, and I have to turn them.
That's important to highlight, because nobody ever completely wipes the slate clear and suddenly we're all, it's all a bed of roses or a bed of bloom, have a little pun in there, throw that in. No, we're not saying that in any shape or form, but what you actually did was you created space to develop this dream. And what advice would you give your younger self today?
Oh, be kinder to yourself. Be kinder to myself. I'm very hard on myself, actually. Mm-hmm. I am. I'm my own worst critic, you know, and I can be very hard on myself. And I look back now, and I look at the 16-year-old, and God, she was actually all right. She was actually all right. And I would love to tell her to be kinder to herself, that, to have more fun, to not take life so seriously. Now, I'm 44 in May. It took me 44 years to do that, right? Because I don't think that I woke up, it's been, and I still do it, but have more fun. Let go a little bit. Dance in the kitchen. Yeah. Laugh at yourself, right? I laugh at myself all the time, because I do some stupid things, right? But I laugh at myself. But I just think, though, that 16-year-old was quite serious. She had a lot on her plate at the time. She was the eldest of 6 kids. There's a lot of that kind of stuff too. And she took life far too seriously. And I think only maybe in my mid-30s that I started to change.
Well, listen, I might know the answer to this, but I do want to ask you, if you could have dinner tonight with somebody that you really admire, who would it be, and who would it be to give you the advice?
Oh, Sarah Blakely of Spanx.
I knew it.
And then Michelle Obama after that.
Would you be wearing Spanx? Would you wear a pair of Spanx?
I would, yeah. I'd put on the Spanx knickers and all that, and I'd wear them just for her.
As well. She's even got a male range at this point. I know.
I saw that, but she's hilarious, right? And she owns 100% of her company, and she started off with €5,000. And actually, she says something similar to me. I only wanted to make women feel good, right? Because when we all know, the Spanx are great to make people feel good and more confident. But I love her, and I love what she does. And I love that, she turned 50 the other day, and she took herself off for 7 days of a retreat. But she's funny. And Michelle Obama is the next one. Then after that, Michelle Obama.
Absolutely. Well, look, you said one of the questions was your favorite book, but you're reading Untamed at the moment, or is it Tamed or Untamed? Tamed or
it's Untamed, I think, because she was saying, right? And I would tell everybody to go get Untamed, right? Because I've listened to Glennon Doyle on and off and blah blah blah, right? But she talks about how women, right, really know who they are deep down, right? But they lead their lives the way everybody else wants to do. And she had to get divorced, and she was an alcoholic and a bulimic and all these different things, right? But they all came at the end of the day from a feeling of not being who she wants to be. But if I can just read you this, which she realized, she said, I understand now that no one else in the world knows what I should do. The experts don't know, the ministers, the therapists, the magazines, the authors, my parents, my friends, they don't know. Not even the folks who love me the most. Because no one has ever lived or will ever live this life I am attempting to live, with my gifts and challenges and past and people. Every life is an unprecedented experiment. This life is mine also. So I've stopped asking people for directions to places they've never been. There is no map. We are all pioneers. And I say, live your full life. Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing. Just do what you want to do. And by the way, I have to remind myself that too. But if there is no map, right? You actually have to just go out there and take the road less traveled, or else take the other road, and then you can do a U-turn. If you go down the wrong road, take a U-turn and come back up again and go down the other road.
So that is a wonderful way. But just the final question that I'm going to be asking all my guests going forward. Mm-hmm. And you're the first one. Do you believe that Bloom in a Box is your calling?
I think it's definitely my calling. Yeah, I think it's definitely my calling for now. I think that there's other things that are going to lead out of this that I'm going to do. But without a shadow of a doubt, Bloom in a Box has actually made me bloom out of the box in a funny kind of a way myself, right? And I didn't actually mean that; it just came out.
You're speaking you're speaking your truth. That's what it is.
I think it has, and I have lots of new products coming. I have a new range coming, and I have different stuff coming. And I do think that it's the start. I do think it's the start.
So that's, again, just magnificent answer, because what I'm hearing and what I believe myself, Aveline, is because you've answered this calling, you had the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sleepless nights, the frustrations. Now, the calling, you answered it, but it's going to evolve. It has to evolve because nothing stays the same. And so there you are, you're already describing what's about to happen. So listen, I'm going to leave it on this wonderful note. And you know, I love you very, very much.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to you being here with us all today, Aveline. And I'm sure the listeners have loved it. And so this is just the beginning of an amazing journey for you, Aveline, for me. And so I hope for many of our listeners too. Just give us one more boost of your wonderful advice to everybody that's listening.
No, I just think be kind to yourself.
Be kind. Let's just say Mother's Day is coming up as well. So how can people order a balloon?
Oh, I don't want to be promoting it like that. You know, I mean, they can, you know.
I'm allowed to do that.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Bloom in a Box, and everywhere. And I'm not, you know, because it'll, you know. But I do think, and this is the funny thing, is we're all trying to be kind to everybody else, right? But you have to be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. And like, that's a daily thing with me, because I see the flaws and I see the whatever. And I told you earlier, my own worst critic. And sometimes I have to pull myself back in and go, you know what, you're doing all right. And you know, the irony is, right, we are so blessed and we don't even know it.
Blessed is the word. So I'm going to suggest to everybody to order yourself a Bloom in a Box and be kind to yourself, because I can tell you one thing, it's packed with love. And thank you so much, and congratulations and continued success, Aveline. You're an angel, and it's just a pleasure to know you. Okay.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Pauline. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this show so that you will be notified when the next episode is released. And remember, keep believing you're amazing and you have so much to give. Now is your time.